What's up, everybody? Rattlehead50222 here, the Stuttering Reviewer, and I just put up a review about 13, and I am decided to go ahead and do a discography of the Megadeth albums, all 14, and maybe even War Chest and a couple others. Maybe not, but we'll see. There's a story behind. I bought my records. Okay, back then there was tapes. When I was growing up, CDs were just coming out. CD players were $800 to $900, and nobody could afford CDs. So we, bought tapes. You know what I'm saying? Why not? Everybody had tape decks. They were cheap. They were easy. Tapes were about the same price as CDs. Believe it or not, about $15. Depending on. And my very first encounter with Megadeth was a speed metal record, and it had just came out, and it was called Speed Metal. That's all it was called, Speed Metal. And it had a bunch of different bands on there. Exodus, Megadeth, Wake Up Dead was on there. That was my first song I ever heard by Megadeth. I fell in love with Megadeth. They were the standout band on that record, and I thought, since that was a new tape, that was Megadeth's new album. And me, being me, I like to hear bands in the beginning to the end. So, I go out and see Rust in Peace. Have not heard anything about Rust in Peace. Evidently, it had just came out. This was about 1990. And I bought Rust in Peace first. Not even looking at the dates. I mean, I was young, naive. I put the tape in and started playing. It was like, wow. Immediately the next day, I went out and bought So Far So Good, So What. Again, it was just pure ironic. It was just, just the way it went. I believe it or not, tapes were real small. You didn't really, you pulled them out and you had little bitty fold outs. And, you didn't really, I didn't really get into reading the lyrics and reading who produced what and who was the record label and this, that, and the other. And then I was like, where the hell is this Wake Up Dead song at? So finally I went out to Camelot. There was a store at the mall. It was called Camelot. And I finally found Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? And then underneath Peace Sells that day, I seen an album, Killing Is My Business. And I picked it up and said, what? I never heard of this, because when you see the posters, every time you've seen a Megadeth advertisement, you only seen them 3 records. They didn't really promote Killing Is My Business. It was like a forgotten record, a forgotten tape. So I picked it up too. And after hearing Rust in Peace, So Far So Good, So What, and Peace Sells, and being 12 and 13 years old, Killing Is My Business was like, well, this is crap. Even the artwork looked duty, and I was like, this was just stupid. My creative genius wasn't in there. So I'm going to do a discography. I just did 13. Well, I just did Super Collider, which I will be doing because that was just a comedy bit in bashing the people that bashed Super Collider. And, everybody that says Kingmaker sounds like Children of the Grave, it might. And it might. Think about it this way, people. It might be because they named their fucking album 13 after Megadeth, so Megadeth was, Dave Mustaine was like, fuck you, I'll make a song like yours, but it won't be yours. Never know. But anyways, enough of that. So, in reverse, Super Collider I just did, and then I did 13. Now we're rewinding all the way back to the mid-80s. Killing Is My Business, and Business Is Good. Now, Killing Is My Business is a record that is overlooked by 90% of the Megadeth fans out there. But it has some of the most powerful, fastest, best riffs they ever had. Rattlehead, which is where I got the name from, obviously, was on that song, was on that tape. And it is signature Megadeth. If you listen to that song, all the leads, the sound, the drums, is Megadeth. It's the way they sound. It's the epitome of the way Megadeth has sounded throughout the years. Even when they got light, the way Dave Mustaine plays the guitar, it may not be as fast, but it sounds the same. Their music kind of resembles that song. people, if that album would have been made at Capitol Records, like Peace Sells, we would be talking about Killing Is My Business today like we do Peace Sells. Because it is a thrash speed monster. If you listen to it for what it is, and again, he tried to go in and remaster them all and do a little something to them, but it had already been copyrighted, short of going in and just re-recording the whole album and fucking the copyrights all the way up and having it reproduced and produced right, couldn't do that. So he tweaked it the best he could, and you can barely hear the guitars, but it is a thrash speed monster. It's Dave Mustaine at his angriest. Killing Is My Business, Rattlehead, Looking Down the Cross, and Mechanics are masterpieces, and they always get overlooked. I really dig the song Rattlehead. To this day, I think it's one of my top 10 Megadeth songs. It's up there with Holy Wars. It's technical as that. It's probably the fastest song they've ever done. Guitar-wise, guitar work is amazing. Like I said, though, it was produced by Combat Records back then. When you buy old Megadeth albums, you see Combat on Capitol Records. But, and now when you go by obviously it's hard to find the original Killing Is My Business because they remastered them. Most stores just carry the remastered version. It was just Combat Records. It wasn't with Capitol. It wasn't a subsidiary of Capitol Records like a lot of folks think. It was its own little record company, and they sold the rights to Capitol, but they had to work out their contract, so the name Combat still stayed on through a few records. Now, enough of that mumble jumbo. It's common sense. You all know this, but I think Killing Is My Business was one of the coolest albums, angriest, fastest, shreddiest. It's a monster. It was just produced wrong. Like I said, if it would have been produced by Max Norman, it would be one of those Peace Sells records, because the first 6 albums were great. A lot of people discount. They always go from Peace Sells to Countdown. And people hardly ever bring up Killing Is My Business because of the way it sounded, and the artwork was terrible, and they fucked up. People at Combat said in an interview, they fucked up. They fucked up the artwork. They didn't admit fucking up the production, but you really couldn't hear the guitar work too well, man. It was the rhythm was off. It was just another day and age, though. They didn't have the digital sound, and they were just starting to go over to digital, and everything was, all this technology shit was brand new. You didn't have the foot pedals and all that, and it was raw sound, though. It was raw Megadeth, and it still sounded good. And even if you don't like the record, if you listen to the song Rattlehead, that's the epitome of Megadeth. That's what I expect to hear out of every record, and 90% of the time they bring it. At least that sound. They may not bring the speed and the tenacity and the and the lyrics with it, but normally they bring that sound. And if you listen to it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's a great record. I'm going to give it a higher rating than I did Super Collider in 13, just because it's classic Megadeth. Not every song on there is good, but if you ever get a chance and you're new to Megadeth and you become a fan, let's say Euthanasia or Cryptic Writings of Risk, if you're a real fan, you'll listen to this album in its entirety, and you'll understand, and you'll get and read the lyrics, and you'll get a grasp of where the man come from and how angry he was during this album. And it was a time of the Cold War, and everything was different back then, guys. If you didn't grow up in there, you wouldn't understand. Megadeth just didn't act the part of being this aggressive band. They were aggressive. They were, when you seen them in concert. I remember my first Megadeth concert was probably Clash of the Titans, 1990. It was Slayer, Anthrax, and Megadeth. And I can remember the commercials saying they said it couldn't be done. And you could hear Dave Mustaine playing Holy Wars in the background. And, I was really young. I was only like 12 or 13 years old. And it was amazing. They kick-ass show, man. It was at a small event venue. The place, maybe it was at Louisville Gardens. I don't know. Louisville Gardens probably holds 15,000 people, maybe tops. But it was really cool, man. And they played Mechanics, Rattlehead. That was their set list. They didn't have that many. Like I said, there were 4 albums in. So, Slayer and Megadeth were trading off being the closing act. It just so happened Megadeth was the closing act when I was there. And when you play an hour and 15 minutes, you damn near play your whole entire entourage of what you have. And Killing Is My Business was a lot of that, man. And it's an album that's overlooked, and I encourage any Megadeth fan, especially if you're a new one, to check it out and listen to it. And you will find a newfound respect for it, because considering the records they put out now, yes, a lot of them still good. I'm still a Megadeth fan, true. I'm one of his biggest supporters, but they don't have the energy and the power that they had back then. They don't. And it has nothing to do with lineup changes, because Megadeth is Dave Mustaine. Every song they make is surrounded by his rhythm guitar, his musical genius, and his drive and determination to be the better band. Never wanted to be second to Metallica in the early days. So, it used to be Megadeth was defined as the first state-of-the-art speed metal band, and they wanted to come out and nudge their noses at Metallica and say, look, I'm faster than you, I'm more violent than you, I'm badder than you. And this record proved it, man. It kicks Kill 'Em All's ass. It's fucking it's a gem of Megadeth. It's probably top 5 albums, one of the top 5 albums. Y'all know Rust in Peace being number 1, obviously. But it's up there. Their first 5 albums were great. I said 6 a minute ago. Correction, not 6. The first 5 albums were their gems. And then we'll get into that later. But this has been my review for Killing Is My Business, and Business is Good. Killer fucking album. Rattle the fucking head out of here. 50222, the Stuttering Reviewer. Thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you think. Think about the album. If you've given it a real good listen to, I want you to hear from the folks that's heard the raw copy, not the remastered, polished, pretty version. The raw, nasty tape copy, or even the album copy, because that's Megadeth at its rawest, purest form. And something a lot of folks don't listen to, because it's tossed aside, and it's a really good album. And for that, I'm out of here, guys. Rattlehead 50222, the Stutter Reviewer out. Let me know what you think. Subscribe. Later.